Welcome back to Talk of the Town on 99.7, 1450 WHTC and WHTC.com.
And we welcome you back to Talk of the Town for this Friday, May 14th. I'm Gary Stevens. It's the second Friday of the month, and this time we usually set aside talk about things going on in Allegan County with the two men who represent the northwest corner of the county on the Board of Commissioners. That is the immediate Holland area. Board Chairman Jim Storey of Holland and former Board Chairman and current Commissioner Dean Kapenga of Hamilton. They join us via the Zoom connection. Gentlemen, good morning and welcome back to WHTC.
Good morning, Gary and listeners.
Good morning. And Jim, let me get you off of the mute button because you were talking and unfortunately, there we go.
There you go. Thank you, Gary.
I just wanted to make sure that everybody can hear. And if you want to join the conversation, as I say, when we have Zoom conversations, no, I'm not inviting you into the Zoom room. You got to call 616-395-1450. It's the old school way. It's the best school way to talk to Jim Storey and Dean Kapenga. Before, gentlemen, we talk about some of the county government issues, especially dealing with yesterday's meeting, I do need to address something that happened in Lansing yesterday. State Senate Bill 0046, sponsored by the man who represents Allegan County in the state Senate, Eric Nesbitt of Lawton, had a broadband expansion bill vetoed by Governor Whitmer yesterday. And in her veto letter, she says that the bill does not go far enough to make sure all communities have access to affordable internet, claiming that Nesbitt's bill focuses more on giving tax breaks for companies looking to expand in rural communities when tribal governments and other minority institutions are struggling to get the same connectivity. Jim, especially broadband internet expansion has been something that's been on your docket for quite some time. How disappointed are you, and Dean, you can also chime in as well, that this latest, the second such expansion bill has been vetoed by Governor Whitmer?
Well, Gary, thank you. And again, good morning to you and to all the great listeners. It is extremely disappointing that this bill got vetoed again because it does. Yes, it does provide incentives in the form of tax allotments to existing companies to expand into areas they've been unwilling to or unable financially to expand into, which is primarily a large segment of Allegan County. And to me, the preference for some is to hand out money to companies to expand, and we may need to do that with the American Recovery Act money that was gone to every unit. But this also would give the other way of doing it, and that is to get a carrot to companies that do what they do best, which is to connect people. And if she says something like about the tribal governments, obviously we have a tremendous tribal government in Allegan County at the Gun Lake Tribe, and that would benefit them too, because it doesn't matter what political lines you cross. When I say political, I'm not talking about party politics. I'm talking about governmental political boundaries for it to exist. So the senator's efforts have been great. He modified the bill, as I understand it, to try to accommodate the earlier veto message of the governor. And still, apparently, the Whitmer administration is more interested in handing out taxpayer money than giving the Senate incentives to get the private companies to expand. We have two companies that would have taken advantage of that. One is Bloomingdale Communications, which is located just a short distance outside the county of Allegan. And the other is Great Lakes Energy, which already serves a number of customers in Allegan County. I think we need to empower these smaller internet providers for rural areas to do the job. The bigger guys, they have economics that dictate they only go into concentrated areas of population. We need to incentivize these smaller companies to get Allegan County connected. That is the backside of what they call the digital divide. Rural areas such as ours that need this service.
616-395-1450, 616-395-1450. If you have a question for Allegan County Commissioners Dean Kapenga and Jim Storey. We touched upon this subject very briefly last month when we chatted, and I want to give a little bit more time to it, especially as the weather is getting warmer and more people are going out and about. An off-road vehicle ordinance draft has been set. And I think this one, Jim, if I'm not mistaken, this is up Dean's category, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, I'll take a shot at it, Jim, and you can just chirp in. But Jim and myself were pleased. About a month ago, we had about 150 people come to a meeting, and that's the most in the history of Jim and me coming to commissioner meetings. People saying, we want this. We think it'd be a good idea for the county. And then to think of some 65 other counties also adopting ordinances for ORVs. So yesterday, Jim, you did a great job in leading us in looking at the ins of, as far as the pros and cons of ORV use in Allegan. And there's a ordinance that was put together by our sheriff. I just thank him, for our prosecutor, Myron Couch, as far as they put in tremendous effort in putting together an ordinance that creates safety and creates some real logic as far as why we are doing it, areas that we shouldn't do it in. And it gave the road commission some latitude of preventing some 30% of roads from not even allowing ORVs, which I was glad to see, as far as for there just to be a real look into it. Also, there's a clause within it, because we have about 20 townships that have already said we agree with this. But the area that I represent, Lake Town, has said we don't know if it fit in our township. I mean, as far as in our congested areas, we think it might be a little bit dangerous. So they aren't sure of it. Manlius isn't sure of it. So within this ordinance, it gives them the ability to still create their own ordinance if they want to. So Jim, thanks for your leadership within that. I think we gained a lot of just debate on trying to find the best solution within this ordinance. And it was a very good meeting yesterday. We aren't there yet, Gary, but we're getting closer, and I'm hoping it will go through.
Thank you, Dean, for that great explanation, and thank you for your courage in supporting this. I think if Allegan County does this by vote of the Board of Commissioners after our June 10th meeting, we will join 65 other Michigan counties that have permitted ORVs on their county roads. So we're not really plowing new ground here. We're joining other counties that are frankly rural in nature, such as Allegan, and allow kind of the elbow room, for these ORVs to operate. As I said, we have a hearing on June 10th, which is required by state law. We had to give 45 days notice for it, which we did. And so we look forward to making a decision after that.
616-395-1450. If you have a question for Allegan County Commissioners Jim Storey and Dean Kapenga. And by the way, I'm trying to make it so that, okay, last time I mentioned Dean first, then Jim. Now I'm mentioning Jim first, then Dean.
We don't care. It's a team effort. We don't care.
If you got a question for those gentlemen, they'll be happy to answer it. It's Allegan County, though, 616-395-1450. You mentioned about conferring on this off-road vehicle ordinance with the Sheriff's Department. We'll touch upon that in a moment. I do have a caller that might have a question. Good morning. You're on the line with the Allegan County Commissioners.
Good morning. I just wanted to talk to the commissioners to encourage them for the county to do whatever necessary with the broadband issue. The county is a business, basically, and we need to attract, it's a competitive business, and we need to attract business and the right citizens to this area. And infrastructure like broadband will broaden that and make it easier to attract the things we need to grow and prosper in our county. So thank you very much.
Appreciate the call. 616-395-1450.
Gary, if I can just make a quick statement.
Yes.
I think Jim is holding the banner with broadband, and so am I. So for your listener, we agree with you. We had Larry Brown, the superintendent from the ISD in Allegan, saying that just in their ISD, they're spending some $35,000 in hotspots for kids. simply so they can function in school with the situation that we're in. And we realize that for the growth that we need to help people, I was talking to our director of community action today. I mean, it's a vital thing to give them the essence of internet. So we are on that track, and thank you, listener, for calling.
Let me add one other thing as well. We are going to probably address this in two separate segments next week on Talk of the Town. Next Monday, it's the third Monday of the month, which means our usual chat with the two men who represent the Lakeshore in the state Senate, one being Roger Victory of Coopersville, the other being Eric Nesbitt of Lawton. He will get his take on the veto by Governor Whitmer. And then a week from today, we're scheduled to have the phone lady, Ruth Goddard from AT&T, join us, and certainly broadband discussion. And to me, just as important about broadband access is dealing with bandwidth expansion, because more and more people are using it. And, you know, if right now we're still limited on bandwidth, that's got to be addressed. But that's a technical matter, and we'll deal with it next week. 616-395-1450. Before we had gotten that last call, gentlemen, talking about Allegan County Sheriff Frank Baker, his office administered the annual report. We talked with the sheriff a week ago yesterday about that ahead of time. Now the report has been given. Certainly the commissioners are very, I don't want to say concerned on a negative side, but they are always concerned about how the sheriff's department is operating and making sure the responsible use of funds and responsible use of protecting the citizens of the county.
I'd like to kick this to Dean as a former deputy and sergeant with our sheriff's department, who retired after an excellent career. But before I do, I really want to say one thing that struck me from the report yesterday, and Dean, you may remember, was Sheriff Baker saying that in his 30 years as a law enforcement professional, all with, I think all but a few with Allegan County, this past year, 2020 has been the toughest year in that career. And I think, without asking why, of course, it's the COVID related protocols that had all of us in local government scrambling, but also the rising anti-police tide across the country. And I just want to say, Frank Baker and his people have done a great job for our county. It's time for us to stand up for them and not allow some of the repeated bashing of police forces by the publicizing of every negative incident that occurs, no matter where it is, as some kind of representation of our police departments. You know, they wear shields on their chest, and we ought to look at those shields that are on their chest as our shields to protect and preserve us. And so I salute Sheriff Baker. He's done a great job in many other areas. And with that, I'll let Dean, who's far more knowledgeable of how that works than I do.
Well, just for the listeners, the annual report, it's really a sense of accountability. You know, so Frank gave us all the stats from arrests from drunks to felons to misdemeanors to everything that he did to just say, commissioners, this is what our staff has done. And then I wrote down the same thing you did, Jim, as far as he said it's the hardest year in his career, and went through some of the struggles they've had in what happens if my ship gets COVID and I can't even do it, or as far as they've taken their jail inmate population from like 260 to 180 just because of, I mean, they were that scared of what's it going to do if it's rampant throughout the jail. So he's dealt with some incredible issues, but I think, Jim, you said it so well that they've done an outstanding job through this in delivering the service to the county. And I'm so glad that you brought up just the respect that has been lost for the sheriff's department. And some of my friends just saying that they'll be just walking down the road and somebody will flip them off or cuss at them for no reason. And they're going, why do people treat me like this? You know, and so the respect to come back and for us to know that that shield represents them just trying to help and protect us and all that they can do. And I know these people of their heart of wanting to serve the county the best way that they can to keep it safe. And even with our model, Jim, as far as with our vision, as far as to create a place that's safe for people to raise a family, they are trying to do that with us. And so I really feel for them, but it was great to hear Frank, his bright voice again, just going, no, we have stepped forward. We have done our best. And through the stats that he gave, through the changes that he had to make through COVID, we saw just a great job that's been done there. And just a thank you to all the deputies that are out there that are serving us, as well as so many other people. So thanks. Thank you, Gary.
And Gary, I just want to add one more 30-second bit to that. And that is, I want our listeners and our citizens to think back to the last 15 months under COVID, when every other public official on the salary, went into isolation, probably for some good reasons for a while. But the sheriff's department and other police agencies, they continued to be out when other people were seeking shelter. And that goes to their commitment to serve. And I just think we overlook and forget that and allow the national media to besmirch them. And I've had enough of it.
Gentlemen, it looks as if there's going to be some roads fixed in the Douglas area, and hopefully it's maybe some of the fixing that needed to be done because of the E word, erosion. Either one of you gentlemen want to tackle this?
That's a Dean issue.
Well, all I know is I took my wife for a ride because I had talked to the road commission director, and he said, "Hey, we got it fixed." So we took I don't know if the listeners have taken a ride on South Shore Drive, but we had such a bad area there that has been eroding that it was taking the road away, and it was too unsafe for the homeowners to even get to their houses. I mean, it was that dangerous. And so they spent some $400,000 for a 200-foot, really they put like a steel wall in to prevent erosion, but also to keep that road safe enough for people to get to their homes. And Jim and me both walked that whole area to each house with some of the processes that were going on. And those people are just so thankful for this, because there's a master plan that's going on for that whole area to hopefully develop a road that goes behind all the houses, because just the vibration from all the trucks and some of the vehicles going down there isn't helping the situation. But we're very thankful for the work that's been done, and just the strategy that the road commission has to get these people by so they can actually use their beautiful houses for this summer, and hopefully get this next plan in place.
616-395-1450. Good morning. You're on the line with the commissioners.
Hi, I have a question about the road commission. We have 3 and 6 foot bike paths on the side of the road to give room for the people who are going quickly down the road. But it's full of gravel and dirt, and so the bikers don't ride down that patch because the road commission doesn't come and ever brush the dirt off the road. And it's, it's several roads, not just one, but they throw all the gravel during the course of the winter, but no one ever comes and cleans it up.
Well, Jim, I don't know if you want to tackle that. I got a call, I'm sure 3 weeks ago, with so much sand being put down that it was in the person's lawn. They said it was like 3 inches deep. And I called the road commission, and they're going, "Hey, wait a second. We'll make sure that we gauge that, because they're just putting too much on." So I appreciate that. Do you have the actual address where you're saying this happened, so I can tell the road commission?
Sure. We live on the corner of 147th and 64th, and our address is 4695 64th Street.
I will make sure
it's
I
an
call
intersection, and it's very, very busy. And we actually rented one of those power rakes to get all the dirt out of the grass, so we don't really want them to shove it back into the grass.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your call, and I'll make sure I call the road commission on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the call. With that, we'll button up this edition of the chat with the Allegan County Commissioners. Of course, we will put a link to allegancounty.org when we put the podcast of our conversation with Commissioners Jim Storey and Dean Kapenga on our webpage at WHTC.com. We'll do that in a few moments. Jim Storey, Dean Kapenga, thank you very much for joining us today on WHTC's Talk of the Town. And if all goes well, let's do this again next month.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you very much, Dean Kapenga and Jim Storey on 99.7 and 1450 WHTC.